Well, folks, here comes the liberal onslaught from the half-benders and the half-truth hacks of the Democratic Party, sponsored in part by your friends of the mainstream media outlets of communist CNN and Madcow-MSNBC. With Trump's Supreme Court nomination looming, Democrats from across the nation, but especially from within the halls of Congress, are manifesting a complete and hostile takeover of our country in their attempt to hijack the 2020 election and ultimately defraud the American people from their voice of 2016. I will not sit idly and passively by while domestic Democratic terrorists are attacking our nation. Sit back. I'm about to railroad these rooters of wrongdoing. This ahead and more today on the Closet Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Wright. Let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, let us not begin to fool ourselves. We all knew that immediately following the reported death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader-Ginsburg, the awol-American establishment, led by Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Run-Amuck Chuch Schumer, would take the legacy of this great lady and spin it into their version of socialism and perverted democratic justice for these United States of America. Let me be very clear, folks. I didn't quite care for the policies and the political stance of the late RGB, but under no circumstances should the soul and the sanctity of this Supreme Court Justice's office be lost to the socialistic mess that the Democrats have in store for this country. As I've already reported, Justice Ginsburg didn't quite care for Donald Trump. In fact, her displayed disdain for him was quite evident. And now, based on the testament of Ginsburg's granddaughter, Clara Spera, we are to honor the dying wish of a woman who was appointed by old Slick Willy himself and confirmed by the Democratic-controlled 103rd Congress. Now, for you liberals listening, please do not take my comments out of context. We all know how you love to do that. But in 1996, the Democratic White House and Senate took the steps as allowed by our U.S. Constitution to place Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the Supreme Court. And during this time, the people who cast their ballots believed that somehow, someway, that Democrats could offer a better future for this country. Now, we all know looking back, that was hardly the case, but the Democratic Party upheld their policies and promises to the American people and seated a liberal judge to our nation's highest court. Folks, now, due to the sheer hatred for our U.S. president, Democrats and their minion forces have mended together to deny the American people who cast their ballots in 2016 their right to ensure that Donald Trump and the Republican majority Senate have their turn to nominate and vote for a conservative replacement for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ladies and gentlemen, it would appear that liberal Democrats in this country have yet again illustrated their ignorance for the unwillingness of the American people to follow their lead into the depths of despair. And now we have the left and the mainstream media using Justice Ginsburg's liberal granddaughter as the megaphone of the anti-MAGA commentary. For those of you who don't know, Ginsburg's granddaughter is not some little girl in pigtails. No. She, just like her grandmother, is a liberal attorney hell-bent on pursuing and motivating the left's agenda. Active within the ACLU, Reproductive Freedom Project, one of Clara Spera's most famous quote is, "All women, not just those of means, should be able to make the best decision for herself and her family about whether and when to have children without undue state or political interference." So, suppose you are listening to this, and in that case you have anything other than female anatomy parts within you, you have no right to reproduce or extend the count within your family, even if you were participatory with your partner, along with Almighty God, to create the life and breath of a child. But suddenly, and without influence, we are to submit and believe the words of Clara Spera, because her, like her deceased grandmother, know what is best for this country, and that is, despite their undying hatred for Donald Trump, there is no more room for conservatism on our nation's highest court. Folks, I am so sick and tired of listening to the whiny, wannabe pundits of CNN and MSNBC who parade and praise those who are claiming it is so unfair what the Republicans are attempting to do. Behind the guise of defrauding the 2020 election, it is evident that Democrats do not care about the votes cast in 2016. No. They only wish to extend their pipe dreaming, thinking that they and the do-nothing, done-nothing Democrats like Joe Biden can somehow remove Donald Trump from the White House. For the left, nothing else matters, and anything else would be a sheer failure for their socialistic agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm concerned about our country. I spend a lot of time reading and investigating today's issues to gain knowledge and perspective on current events. But no matter how much I dig, I cannot for the life of me begin to understand the Democratic-Dogma that is plaguing our nation. For in today's America, it is okay for hostile, liberal activists and attorneys to call an elected African-American leader a racist and advise him to stop eating coon flakes and fingering him as an Uncle Tom, all because he denies Democrats' desperate pleas to join in their lawlessness. On Madcow-MSNBC, black activists refer to the Attorney General of Kentucky as skinfolk, but not kinfolk, over his handling and the grand jury decision not to proceed with murder charges against the 3 law enforcement officers who defended their life against gunfire, which tragically took the life of Breonna Taylor. Ladies and gentlemen, liberals love madness. Under the cloak and dagger of anti-conservative Democratic muddy principles, America is deteriorating from within. Our nation's people are losing their lives, their liberties, and what's worse, many of them do not even know it. For far too long, they have been too far dependent on government, sheepishly heading to the socialistic slaughter that will only end in disaster for our nation's democracy. Join me in our fight to say no to this new liberalism that is killing our nation. We have the right to defend our vote and our voice. Folks, the fight has just begun. The conflict against conservatism is here. The battle lines are drawn. Arm your body, arm your mind, arm your soul. Freedom is not free, and only the strong-willed will survive this socialistic purge. This is Eric Wright, and this has been the Closet Conservative Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Please remember to give a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends. The Closet Conservative Podcast is a production of the Liberty Loft. Copyright The Liberty Loft, 2020. You can find more shows and information on our website, www.thelibertyloft.com, or any of our social media channels.